Okay, thanks everybody for joining us. This is the Accelatis Essentials classes. Today's is going to be on the Custom Script Manager, and the slide that I usually show you, it's a 15-minute long session. We're going to focus on a specific subject. We're going to be recording the webinar in case either, obviously, the people who are here, but you can always go back and review if you missed something, or if you have a colleague or somebody who wasn't able to attend, they can go back and check it out. We're not going to do a Q&A session afterwards. We're going to try to keep this down to our 15-minute target. So with that, let me get right into it with you. So the Custom Script Manager, first question is, what is it? It is the central management of any of your batch files, VBS scripts, or shell scripts. You can get to this tool through the tool at the top of the UI, the Tools menu, or you can get to it from Environment Management. It's the same exact thing that'll pop up. And basically your scripts are going to be stored in the Accelatis repository module. So the repository module, it looks into the Accelatis database, and we store everything in there so that you can save it, kind of get it off the operating system, give you a safe place to keep it inside the database. And once you have the scripts in the Custom Script Manager, you can run them on any server in the Accelatis environment. So in other words, you don't have to physically sit it anywhere. It doesn't need to have any sort of special access. The fact that you have the server with the Accelatis software loaded up on it, it will be able to execute any of the scripts that you tell it. You could pull in existing scripts from the file system. So in other words, if you have some location where you've got 72 scripts that do all kinds of stuff, you can go to the Custom Script Manager and you can pull them in. I'll show you how to do that shortly. Or you could just take them and add them. If you are good at scripting and you just know exactly what you want to do, you can just add them ad hoc and type in your scripts in the bottom pane and save them from there. So you can do that either way. And scripts can be executed once they're in the Script Manager manually, right? There's a little play button, and I'll show you that to you, where you can just take them and run them one at a time, two at a time. You can run them on all your servers, whatever you want. You can also run these scripts in a task in an automation flow. So you can run it either manually there or have it scheduled to run at a certain interval. Depends on what the script does and what you are looking for it to do. You can also run scripts as a custom health check. Again, that's triggered off of an automation. You'd have to set up an automation, and then you can run that from the health check. But understand that on a health check failure, you can launch your custom script this way. And again, the trigger when the alert is issued, same thing during a flow, that you're going to have to go ahead and launch flow on trigger, and you can do it. But again, this is all based on the scripts being inside of the Custom Script Manager. So the UI, if you haven't seen it, I've got it up on the screen, and this is basically a pretty simple UI. Up at the top there's not that many controls. There's a refresh. There's the green plus button that you can add new scripts. The little folder icon is where you would import existing scripts. There's a save button, so when you make your changes, you could save it. The red circle is the delete, and the blue play button is for you to execute them manually on a server. If you look at the bottom left portion, this is the area where your script actually is. Think of that as like Notepad or a VI editor, where it's there. You could type your text in and do whatever you need to do down there. In the upper left, the upper right will show you which environment you're in, and then the lower right shows you every server that's in your environment. In this case, again, my sandbox is pretty thin. All of you guys are probably going to have many more servers in there. But understand that you can take one of these scripts and you can launch them on multiple servers if you want. And you can feed it arguments at the bottom in case you have some sort of an argument that the script needs. You could feed it down at the bottom, and you could execute it on multiple servers, and it will actually show you a log file when you're done. So that being really quick, I think I'm going to be able to show you a lot more by just pulling up the UI and showing you from here what all that looks like. So once I open up my Accelatis UI, you'll find the Manage Custom Scripts under the Tools on the toolbar. And that's usually where I go, so it's the easiest place to do it. There's also an icon for it in the Environment Manager. So I'll click on that and show you where that is really quick. So once you're in here, there's this little piece of paper. Same thing, it just says Manage Custom Scripts, and it will pull up this same UI. So you could see from here all the icons that I talked about, and if you roll over them, you could see exactly what they are. I think there's no surprises up there. One thing to note about your custom scripts is when you save them into this area, or when you add a new one, you have to have the extension be what it is. In this case, it's a .bat file. It's something I'm going to run on a Windows OS. .vbs obviously is a VB script file, and a .sh is something that the Unix operating system will recognize as a shell executable. And the reason is because when you run a custom script through Accelatis, basically it's just like double-clicking a file on your file system. If you can look on the file system here, you know, this is a zip file, and you know that it's associated with a certain program that you have, right? So if I double-click on a zip file, it knows to open up WinZip and do its thing. Think of these as the same type of scenario. A .bat file, if you just double-clicked on it, if you just executed it, the operating system knows what to do with it, and that is really how it is executing. So you have to have the name at the end match what it is. In this case, I've got a whole bunch of little test files in here to show you, and as I click on them, you could see down below that I've got, you know, whatever the contents of that is down here. If I just put my mouse in here, I can edit this. I can have it do whatever I need. Again, I don't know that I want to go into too much on how to script here, but just to show you the interface, that if I make some change there and I do something to my script, just by clicking the Save button, it will go ahead and it'll save my changes. Now, if I want to add a new script, again, I hit the plus button. I have to say my title of the script, whatever I want it to be, but I definitely need to end it with the correct extension, .bat, .vbs, .sh. Right? Once I put that in there, I could do anything I want, whatever my script is, hit my Save button, and just as easy as that, I've put a new script in here. The import should be just as easy. If I go ahead and hit the Open, I can point to any of these. In this case, maybe I'll point to the EPM registry.bat file. All right, so once I point to that, you could see that it has pulled in a new script called EPM sys_registry.bat. It has pulled in the contents of that batch file down here, exactly the way it is on the file system. And once I hit Save, the difference is that this no longer has anything to do with that physical file on the operating system. And this is now held in the Accelatis database. So now that it's here, again, it only has to be in one place for me to do anything with it, right? And I'm going to show you really quick that if I go to the repository module and I click on Custom Scripts, you could see here that I have all of the scripts that are in that UI. And from here, if I wanted to, I could click on certain ones and I can save them, right? I'm just going to save these to the desktop really quick to show you that now on my desktop I have physical files and I can do, you know, whatever I need with them. But just understand that once you save them in the custom script module, they go to the database, and if you want to do anything with them from here, you can save them off, you know, you can delete them, again, whatever you want to do. But again, back to our UI. So now that I know how to get the files in here, if I wanted to remove one, obviously highlight it, click the remove button, as easy as that. It's gone from the database, okay? So be careful on what you remove. But from here, I'll show you if you want to run any of these manually, you would just highlight the one that you're looking to run, and then you would click this Execute Script button, okay? Once I click that, it'll list out all of the servers that are in my environment, because I can run these scripts on any server. Now, if I were to try to run that on a Linux box, it wouldn't do much. This is actually just a little command that's going to bring back all of the variables. So I'm going to run it on my Windows box. So I've got the check mark next to it, which is how it knows which box to run on. I don't really have any optional arguments, so I'm just going to hit execute. It's going to ask, am I sure I want to run it? I just say yes. And when you're in this custom script manager, you will get a log file of what's going on. And basically, it is going to be just like you sitting at a command prompt and running this file. Right? So if I double click there, you'll see that I have this little log file of what happened. Notice that I am starting off in the temp directory. Okay, depending on your user variables and how you have your user set up and which user you're running the Accelatis service as, these scripts are going to execute as that user with those environment variables. So keep that in mind when you're scripting things out. It is always a good idea to use full pathing. Don't take relative pathing for granted here, because again, you may be launching it from a location that you're not aware of, or you may have a set of variables attached to, say, a service account that's running the Accelatis processes that you're not aware of. So in this case, I just told it the command set, which will bring me back all of my variables. So you can see here that it dumped all the variables out, and I could see all kinds of stuff. Here's my temp directory, and if I were to use any of these as variables in my scripts, everything would be just fine, right? It understands what these are. And again, if I wanted to run that on multiple servers, I could certainly do that too. It would just be a matter of going down and selecting whatever I wanted to run it on. So that was a batch file. I'm going to go through quick. I've got a little VBS script here that does all kinds of system information, right? And I'll do the same thing on this Windows box. I'll just select it and I'll execute this VBS script on my Windows box. You can see this one has a little more meat to it, a little more time to complete. But if I double click the log file now, then you could see the VBS script has executed, and it has given me back all the stuff that I've asked it to do. So these are super simple ideas on the scripts, but if you wanted to, you can get really detailed with what you want to do. I've got just a couple of little examples here where I do an OPatch LS inventory detail. Something like this where you might run this on a bunch of boxes. You don't have to go to each box, stick a command line in and do it. You can house that script right here and run it on whatever box you want to in your environment. Hyperion Home is a variable that I know I understand here, so I was able to use it in this little script. So I can execute it, and again, if I wanted to do that on 17 of my boxes in my environment, I would just select them all, and I can easily do it, right? Now the format of this looks pretty bad because Notepad doesn't understand just carriage returns, but long story short here, whatever format you pipe it out in, yeah, you can even send this to a file maybe and do stuff with it. The point is that you could see anything that you want to see as far as the scripts go. Now, again, once you use your scripts, you have them all written here. You can use them in a couple different ways. We're not going to go through too much detail, but I do want you to know that when you come into your automation module, if you wanted to launch these custom scripts via an automation, you've got choices to do that. In this case, it's going to be execute script, right? If I hit the plus sign, I go under external, execute script, right? That's the one I want. If I double click that and look at the properties, this drop-down box is all of the scripts that I have stored in my custom script manager. So in that way, I can run all kinds of stuff here. The other thing that I had mentioned was that you can run it as a health check, right? So same way, if I have a custom script health check, which I do right here, I'm going to go to the properties of it just so I can show you guys really quickly. Custom script. If I look at the properties of that, same thing. I hit this, the ellipsis here. This is a list of what's in my custom script manager. So I can run any of those custom scripts as a health check. And you might be able to put some logic in there to force a health check to fail, right? Force a script to have an exit code of 1 or something like that if some condition exists. So another thing to think about with custom scripts in the way that you can use them as a health check. And the last thing I want to show you is something like this, where I have a flow created in my automation, and I have a health check, and I'm going to launch that flow. I can actually add some variables to it, right? In this case, I've got a little custom script that accepts a destination of a zip. It accepts a file to zip, right? And I'm able to point this. In this case, this is a port check for OHS, and I've got my little script there to say, you know what? I'm going to create a new zip file. It's going to contain the OHS component log. So if this thing fails, it's going to create this little zip, and then it's going to go ahead and it's going to email me that zip file. So think about ways that you can build upon the custom script. The module itself is great, central location for all of your scripts, but in these other ways, you can take those scripts and you can use them in a variety of ways. You know, again, anything that you could think of that you can do in a script, you can roll that into your processes here. You can schedule that. You can have that launch when there's an error. Just a ton of things that you can do with it. So hopefully that was a good window in. I'm sure we're going to do another class to go into a little more depth on some of those things I just showed you and how to use the custom scripts and how to give them variables and things. But take that module, use it you know, as much as you can. It really is a powerful little module. The next session that we're going to do next week is setting up SLAs, how to create them, where they come from. Some folks use them. Some folks don't even realize that they could use them. Basically, SLAs are just going to tell you how quickly something ran. If you have a form and you want to make sure that it opens in a speedy fashion, and if it takes longer than 10 seconds, you want to know about it, then tune in next week for the next class we have. That'll be a good one. Questions and feedback, as I've said every class, any ideas that you have, if you want to see them as an Accelatis Essentials class, or if you have any just general comments, please email me directly. You can email the general support mailbox. And I really thank everybody for attending. Again, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.